force places where come something to challenge to black eminence of the Hollywood one pole world. It's Hollywood, only Hollywood, all the hierarchy, all the hegemony. Start from there, as far you come from Hollywood, as far you are from the center. There is only one center in the wall. But if we would have multipolar, then we should have the eminences, different places where the force come. And the second question, this we discussed already before. The second question is what about technology? Because now all this, this hegemony is based on technology somehow. And as we see in military technology, maybe there is countries who can challenge US. But in this technology which touches media and people mind control technology, definitely there is no any competition with that. I mean, the highest technology is in US. Or what do you think in this? And next thing is, of course, that this is mind control technology. But what if we have other poles, they also controlling mind the same way, or they could turn this technology to some positive way, and where they, by the way, get this technology and this kind of thing?
So, first of all, I think that there is the one pole, Hollywood, cultural pole, and geopolitical pole, and social pole, ideological pole. That is the West. That is the elite of so-called United States, but it is not American elites. American people now is something other, and it has showed its color during the campaign and during elections. And I think that against this pole we need to organize different poles. We could not say there is one only against Hollywood, against American culture. There is the other pole. For example, if we rediscover French culture, French cinema, French literature, French art, that exists, but it is almost destroyed by American culture. So in order to respond to this hegemony of United States, not United States, of Hollywood culture, we need make appeal to differences. For example, now we consider European culture as Western culture, but it is not so, because the culture of France, the culture of Germany, the culture of Italy, the culture of Scandinavian countries or Finland are very different, and this difference we are losing. So we need to reinforce our special local identities and promote national, not in the political sense, in the or organic, regional, I would say, tradition. Because, for example, we need to struggle against unification, and this struggle against unification unites us. But the goal of the struggle is not universal. So we should fight together for our diversity, in order to grant and revive our own the diversity. That is why many people support now Putin in Russia, not because they love us or like us, not by the principle, because Putin defends sovereignty, including cultural sovereignty, and that is why they are with us. Not because they love or like Russia too much, but in order to grant Finnish independence, cultural independence, to restore Finnish identity, Swedish identity, French identity, German identity, Italian identity. It is logical to support the struggle of Russia for the multipolarity. Or Iran, or China, or any kind of national cultures. So national cultures, better, cultures against the culture. That should be the front. Not one culture against the other, one pole of force against the other pole of force, black against white. We need to oppose to this unique color, the richness of the different colors. So against unipolarity should be led the war of multipolarity, of multi-polar world, defending this difference. And second, concerning technology, that is serious questions, big question.
Especially for IPR level, this kind of level, like intellectual right properties level, we have a not equal situation in all the places in the world.
Yes.
We have very different situations. Even the highest technology countries has huge competition between, and there is differences, and serious differences which has serious consequences in level of culture, what they able to do.
First of all, the technique can be measure of the things only when we acknowledge that it is. So that is philosophical problem. Heidegger has written many books concerning the metaphysics of technology. So the technology is decisive argument only when we are recognizing such a system, such a society, where it is so. If we imagine,
But we recognize Hollywood. We recognize that they're using
not
highest technology in media.
It is imposed on us. It is imposed on us, and we need, for example, I think that we need to fight back against this manipulation. We need to conserve the right of decision, for example. So we could choose technique or technical development and perfection, but we could choose not. So that is very important. The liberalism, Hollywood, present the things as if there is no solution, as it is something that is unavoidable. Everything is avoidable. So we could look to Hollywood, and we could not look at Hollywood. You say everybody will look. No, every majority maybe, but minority always is the important factor. If we, for example, reject their domination, we could add to develop original art production, and it exists. We need to pay more attention to that. We need to take it seriously. We need to take in consideration that alternative and concentrate on that. With technique, the same situation. If we accept the technique as the destiny, so we will be obliged to follow only one path of development. But we could relativize, we could accept it relatively. So we could make it relative technical development. That is cultural anthropology approach, why I insisted during my lecture on that. And but at the same time, we could, for example, Russia repeated many times in the history technological development of the West in order to oppose the Western influence, and with success. In Peter the Great, we have opened the window to the Europe, and from this window, that was a cannon that appeared in this window. So that was a kind of exception of technology in order to use it precisely as a means of defense against the same Western technology.
But maybe
the same thing with RT. They say that RT has influenced Russia today, has influenced American elections. It is not so, but we have used their weapon and their technology in order to oppose and promote, and the blow was very, very hard. I think the same with the technology of the higher level, and more higher this technology is, less it depends on only technical and material and financial support. Genius is irreplaceable. So you could spend so many money as you wish, but one genius could completely reverse this situation. Yes,
but now the most important question: do you believe that this kind of genius appear from the other pole, not always from the California,
absolutely.
not only from the Silicon Valley?
If you regard Silicon Valley, you will find there Indians, Jews, Europeans, Russians, French,
but they are
Pakistanis. So, but if
how to keep them home?
And you could not find there American. Was never. California, Silicon Valley, it is completely other pole. They are hired by this pole, but they belong to different civilization. And when they return, and sometimes they return to their country, they bring with them knowledge they have acquired there. And I think, but if we consider more, so genius are on the other pole. They are hijacked by Silicon Valley. So the West is more or less, including United States, is sterile. It is not fruitful. They use the fruits of other civilizations and other cultures, but their cultures doesn't give birth to real genius, and they use the intellectual labor force from different parts. And if we could manage to create the decent conditions to our own genius, because they will be with pleasure work in our country, and the only thing that our elites in the other country, now they are working for the global elites, so they don't pay attention to their genius, and they facilitate this headhunting practice, not creating the conditions, positive conditions to prepare and educate and cultivate the original genius. Yeah. So I think, for example, there was I think one of the countries that philosophically was in the techniques of philosophy was the greatest European country is Romania, little Romania, with no so much resources, but if you consider the quantity of the thinkers of Eliade or Ionesco or Ionesco, Culiano, Lucian Blaga, and other. So you see that the little country produced so many figures of thought of global level. So I think we need to revise, to make revision of our own genius. We need to pay more attention to our people, to our society, and create to them decent conditions. And we don't need for that huge amount of money. We need only a kind of attention. We need only concentration for it. We need to, for example, and when Russia put that as a goal,
I definitely wait that.
Yes.
When it happened, then it's some kind of, it's gonna change the game, because Russia has everything for that, and it's just not do it. This is only reason, and
exactly.
Not any country has these resources, these human resources, these economical resources what Russia could have for that, but Russia just don't do it, and this is really how to say, very dispiriting to see that it's not happen.
Yes, but sometimes it happens in the radical situation. It happens in the wars, and Russians. We are very particular, but I think not only ourselves. I think every people, every culture, every society has its own resources, intellectual, spiritual resources. But we need to discover it, rediscover it.
Your problem is what you many times somehow said, that we need other to see better ourselves. And when you not have other anymore, your genius can't work. It go to box, and you can't get distance out of the box. I have always said Russia is fantastic neighbor, because I don't need to fly to moon. I just can't go to Russia, and I can get other is really needed. But for some reason, people don't understand it. For some reason, they don't follow this idea that we need the others to open our own creativity and to use the resources for this.
Exactly. The other is crucial, and if we arrive to the positive concept of other, being other, not becoming the same, so it will be solution, because it is provocative in any in positive way. It provokes imagination, it provokes creativity, and I think that dialogue, not necessarily war or conflict or competition, dialogue. We need or exchange, or cultural exchange. So including the landscapes are very, very expressive. They manifest the different mood of different way of living, like landscapes. So I think that this exchange, this intercultural context, beyond any form of hierarchy or competition or conflict, or trying to persuade the other, convince the other that you are right and you are better. So all that is bad. We need to find a psychological, or maybe psychedelic key to understand the mutual countries.
Yeah.
So
you have this theory of other, and you describe in it, and then there is the swamp. Swamp is the other. But what other is swamp? If you have a other is swamp, you not dialogue with it. So you must have solipsistic state to communicate with swamp. Solipsism is kind of a secure state.
Yes.
When you have swamp to communicate, you can't actually communicate. You can't be symmetric with that. That's why you need solipsistic idea, because this is only what saves you in this.
I think that swamp is excellent partner of dialogue. Excellent, absolutely excellent, because it is a kind of challenge everybody now in the world should respond to. So when we evoking swamp in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia, in Europe, in Russia, everywhere, they understand what we are speaking about. So that is negative common denominator in order to make dialogue more concrete. So rejection of the unipolar hegemony of the swamp, it's the positive factor in creation of the platform for dialogue. So, and that is why we need not only reject swamp, we need deconstruct swamp. We need understand swamp as the final representation of political modernity and postmodernity. So the swamp is something interesting. It is not only what we hate. That is something that aggresses us, that the struggles against us, but that is as well not only blind power. It is intellectual power.
It is black magic mirror.
Exactly, it is Satan. So in order to win Satan, we need to deal with him. And that is ascetic practice of Orthodox monks, where all the path of the spiritual elevation and purification of Orthodox monk is the struggle against the devil. So devil represent and the struggle, but as well understanding, because he was the angel of light. So we need to make deconstruction of swamp, struggling against it, deconstructing it, and creating on this opposition, creating multipolar alternative. Because the way to overcome the devil is special to any country. So now we are in a very interesting situation. Overcome devil is impossible for the man alone. For us, that is moment when we are trying to affront the devil face to face, where the Christ appears, because we could not manage it by ourselves. The man is weaker than devil. That is very important. The man is weaker, and
Pelevin's Emperor Piet, it's never gets this solution that
Polemic is postmodernism.
what to do with these vampires in this vampire story. Have you read it?
No, I don't like
You
this.
you should read it because there is the theory of your Donald Trump. It's a Ishtar, it's a goddess, and goddess has changeable head, and there is one of the protagonists which gonna be the new goddess, and they're gonna bring her to place where to change the head. And this other protagonist is happy that now we get finally good, goddess, which is a bright mind. But when they change the head, they put the spine to the deep state. And spine is deep state, and she immediately start to speak nonsense.